Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about the upset alerts all around the country. I could have added a number of others to that list. I had 6 of them. I think there are about 8 or 10 that absolutely could go crazy this week and totally change the complexion of the CFP moving forward. But we got a couple other games I want to talk about here, and let's talk about the one that should have been a huge one. Penn State at Ohio State, the one that game of the year was thrown around a lot, probably by myself, frankly, going into this season. I don't know how we got here, but we're here. Penn State has a new head coach. They have a new quarterback in Ethan Grunkmeyer taking the stage in a very, very tough spot. And Ohio State has kind of run away from them in a lot of different ways. This is a spot where Ohio State just needs to keep the train rolling. There's really nothing more to this matchup. It's kind of an upsetting way to approach a Penn State-Ohio State matchup, but that's what it's about. That being said, Penn State still has a lot of talent on that roster. They still have a lot of dudes on that defensive line that can be difference makers in this game. Maybe they get after Julian Sayin a little bit more than other teams have, and maybe they can force a couple of mistakes and make this thing interesting. This team is going to come in ready. There's no doubt about that. They're going to come in with a lot of energy because they know this is a huge moment. This is a moment where they can totally change what this season has been about for Penn State football. I don't think they're going to. I think this one gets ugly, and I'll talk about it more on Friday. I think there's some personal stuff in this one that's going to make it get very, very ugly. But at the end of the day, it's a young quarterback against one of the best defensive coordinators and best defenses in the country, probably the best defense in the country, at least in my opinion. I think Ohio State rolls in this one, and you'll probably see it on my best bets on Friday. Oh, excuse me. We got a little mixed up there. There we go. West Virginia at number 22, Houston. Houston favored by almost 2 touchdowns in this one. This one's interesting. This one could have been on the upset alert. There's no doubt about that because Houston just got a massive win. West Virginia, just one of those teams that keeps lurking around the Big 12. Hasn't gotten a Big 12 win yet, but they have a lot of dangerous players. They have a system that if they can go fast and get a couple of running backs going early in this game, this one could get interesting in a hurry. The other side of that is West Virginia struggled mightily on the road. They're 0-3 in those games, including losing a game to Ohio. And the common denominator in all of those games is they've gotten run all over in all of those games. And Houston can do that in droves. I think Willie Fritz has a great game plan for this one. I think Dean Connors and Connor Wegman have a huge day on the ground. And I think Houston gets another win. And they keep marching forward in a very messy Big 12. They might be the clean team at the end of it all. Arizona State at Iowa State, a huge one, an outright elimination game between these two teams, and it's going to be a little bit weird because Arizona State is going to be without Sam Levitt in this one. It is going to be Jeff Sims. We saw what happened the last time Jeff Sims played. It was not pretty against Utah or at home against Utah. I don't think this one's going to be any more pretty, if I'm being totally honest with you. I like this Arizona State team, frankly. I think they're a team that's going to look back on this season and think, if we just had our quarterback, how much different would some of these games be? How much different of a position would we be in? Because we saw what they were capable of doing against Texas Tech. I just think this is a really tough matchup, and I don't think you have the quarterback to get it going. I think Carson Hansen has a big-time day on the ground for Iowa State, and they get a big-time win, at least stay in the fight. I don't expect them to be in Arlington, but at the end of the day, they stay in the fight, and Arizona State officially gets knocked out a little bit earlier than they had hoped. Number 16, Louisville at Virginia Tech, absolutely could have been on the upset alert segment because this is a very, very tough spot for this Louisville team. The Virginia Tech offense has kind of started to find something. It's nothing that outright elite. They're not necessarily going to go for 50 points in this game, but Kyron Jones is playing with a little bit more confidence, throwing the ball around a little bit more confidently. Aiden Green is probably one of the more underrated wide receivers in the country. I like this Virginia Tech team. They get rolled on the ground. Every single time they play a team that is a run-first team, they get absolutely dominated. And if you're giving Isaac Brown space, he is going to take full advantage. He is a nightmare on the ground. I think they're going to be able to get a win. I think Louisville gets this win, and they keep the pressure on teams like Virginia and Georgia Tech to win out because this team is on your heels, and they absolutely are a threat to make the CFP if they can get into the ACC title game. Number 2, Indiana at Maryland. This one's about keeping it rolling, but Maryland needs a big-time win. They need a win badly, especially Mike Locksley needs a win badly. If he wants to be the head coach at the end of the season, they could very well join the carousel that is getting just downright crazy, and we'll talk about that on Friday as well. But this Indiana defense is a nightmare. I really don't think I have to go too far into depth in this one. This is about keeping the Heisman-Mendoza train rolling on over there in Bloomington. It's about the defense just doing what they do, and they get a big-time win, continue to roll on towards a 12-0 season. I figured it was worth talking about because I didn't want to be the fool that Maryland gets a big-time win and I didn't talk about this game at all, but at the end of the day, I do think Indiana rolls away with this one. Yet another game that if I didn't talk about it and Boston College found a way, I'd feel a little bit stupid. So we're here, number 12 Notre Dame on the road at Boston College, 28.5-point favorites. That's probably right about on the money. The Boston College team has totally cratered. After that Michigan State game where they went to double overtime, they lose by 2 points. It's been bad. From start to finish this season, they've been all over the place, and I don't think it's going to get any better in this one. They gave up 200 yards on the ground to Isaac Brown, the Louisville running back. Probably means they're going to give up about 250 to 300 to Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. It's going to be a nightmare day for Boston College, as it has been pretty much every Saturday this year. I'll take Notre Dame to win that one pretty comfortably and keep marching on to 10-2 with just one more big-time hurdle in pit, at least as far as I'm concerned. Purdue at number 21, Michigan favored by 20.5. This one's a little bit more interesting because Purdue, not necessarily an elite team, not a team I necessarily think the world of, but also a coach in particular in Barry Odom that's just a little bit dangerous in some of these spots, and definitely one of those teams in Michigan that you could see them looking down the rest of the season and just saying, we're going to be 9-2 going into that Ohio State game and getting really gassed up for that moment. And at some point they just slip up. Now, I think they have the big-time advantage in this game because Purdue's had a really interesting quarterback situation. They've had a couple of injuries. Malachi Singleton played a little bit. Ryan Brown has gotten back into the mix, but it's not great play. And I think that Michigan pass rush is going to be a little bit too much. I think they win. I think they likely cover. Wouldn't surprise me if Barry Odom took this one a little bit deeper than some people think, and this one gets a little bit more sketchy for the Wolverines than they would like. And then we got a group of 6 scoreboard that is going to be massive this upcoming weekend. Number 25 Memphis goes to Rice, which is not a great team, but a dangerous team with E.J. Warner at quarterback, a very solid player that absolutely can make some plays on them. Navy at North Texas, part of that kind of cannibalization that we're seeing in the American. That's a huge one. One of those teams will likely be knocked out of the race, although I think that race is going to be crazy down to the absolute last week. But Tulane at UTSA on Thursday night, that's going to be an interesting one as well there. It's about Tulane getting the win, but we've seen a couple upsets there that Jeff Traylor team can do some really dangerous things in these spots. Fresno State at Boise State at 3:30 on Saturday, going to be a really fun one. Fresno State playing some pretty good football over there. I think Boise State just got to get this one done. And then Wyoming at San Diego State. We talked about San Diego State. This is a dangerous team for the CFP, especially if the American kind of cannibalizes itself. They get Wyoming at night. A tough spot. I think they should be able to win, and that's a team to watch the rest of the way. Sean Lewis doing incredible things over there, and he very well could be a name to watch for some of these coaching openings going forward. But an incredible weekend, a weird weekend. Not necessarily these big marquee games that are going to be absolutely, get tens of millions of viewers and everyone's going to be having their eyes on one specific game, but a lot of implications. Texas could get totally knocked out after being the number 1 team in the country coming in. Vandy's season could kind of be put on the brink going into the back half. You have a number of big-time games that are totally going to define what the CFP is going to be, and I absolutely promise you, there's going to be upsets, and there's going to be quite a few of them. As far as I'm concerned, it is going to be a weird weekend, I can promise you that, but thank you so much for tuning into this edition of Just Another College Football Podcast. On Friday, we got best bets. We got a conference race breakdown because I think I need as much of a refresher as everyone else needs right about now. Coaching carousel thoughts. We have a number of things. Probably will go through the schools and just kind of give my pick as of right now of who I think will end up being the head coach there, and we'll roll through that as a little exercise. And we'll do take 2 on my SEC versus Big Ten rant. I don't think it's going to be what you guys expect. It is not taking a side of SEC or Big Ten. It's just taking a side of actually having the debate. But at the end of the day, we will get into all of that on Friday. Apologies for a little bit of the mix-up with the schedule this week. Been a little bit crazy, but we'll be back on Friday to break all that down to put a little bit of a bow on this Week 10 slate because it is going to be downright special. I can almost promise you that. But thank you so much for tuning in. Please do like, subscribe, comment. It means the absolute world to me. But thanks so much for tuning in. Had a little bit of a quick show today, but thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys on Friday.